I'm just finishing up a 5-day cruise aboard the NCL Prima. Let's talk about it. Hi, AJ here with Byte Size Cruises. We are just on our last day. It's a sea day here aboard the NCL Prima. And I want to go over everything that went right, everything that went wrong, everything in between, and kind of give you my feelings about the ship and whether or not you should sail on it. So to start off, I know that the NCL Prima gets a lot of mixed reviews. A lot of them aren't so great. And while I can see why, I do have to say that I really enjoyed this ship and this trip. This trip has been amazing. If you haven't been following along, there are shorts on my channel about what we were doing day to day, just brief glimpses into what it's like. And then you can head over to our main channel to see the full breakdown of the vlogs. Mainly, we are doing a new format, so there's an Embarkation day vlog, and then all the other days are kind of mixed together. So, to start off, let's talk about Embarkation. This was probably one of the smoothest embarkation days that I have ever experienced, especially out of Manhattan. In the past, Manhattan has been my least favorite cruise terminal to go through, and I've gone through it for a couple different lines, and NCL is notoriously kind of the worst. I always dread NCL Embarkation. This time, however, it was super simple. So the ship didn't have guests disembarking, which made it so much easier. You weren't fighting through those crowds. So that was one thing. Second thing is, it was a much later in the day embarkation. So we actually didn't leave port until 8 p.m. And that meant that the slots to start embarkation didn't really start until like 1 or 1:30. And we were there pretty much at 1:30, and we all but walked right on the ship. There were very few lines. We did have to check in 2 different places. And I actually think this is really smart. They split it up. So decks like 4 or 5 to 12 were in the front, and decks 13 up were in the back. So John was on deck 13, I was on deck 11, so we did have to separate for that part. I walked up. They had to retake my security photo for some reason. When I was trying to take it ahead of time, it wasn't working. They took my photo, handed me my key card, and by the time I made it over there, John was also already done, and we walked right on. The other really nice thing about it is the rooms were already ready. So that is kind of a tip. If you are used to cruising, try to go for a later time. It's such a better experience when you walk on and your room is ready to go. And so if you can manage to dampen down your excitement for a little bit and instead get on around like 1:30, 2 o'clock, it's wonderful. It really makes a difference. So that being said, it's hard to say which point of it made this embarkation feel so much better, but it is one of the best, and I'm so lucky this year so far to have super smooth embarkations. This was amazing. It was hands down the best experience out of Manhattan, possibly out of New York at all. It was up there with some of the Royal Embarkations for efficiency. Next up, I want to talk about the food. Now, as you may be aware, I'm not the biggest food person. I am typically a pretty picky eater. However, on this trip, I got a little bit out of my comfort zone and tried some new things, and I'm really glad I did. Overall, the food on this trip has been amazing. We did, as far as specialty dining goes, we did Hasuki, Palomar, Los Lobos, and Food Republic. And then we also ate in the main dining room for breakfast most days. We had food at the Indulged Food Hall, and then, of course, the local. And all of them were amazing. There was never a dinner or a meal I was really disappointed in. Breakfast is always a little hard for me because there are limited options that don't have egg in them. But, I managed to find something every day, and it all tasted good. Some of the dishes were a little salty, and we did run into some other people who also felt that their dishes were oversalted. And I had that on a couple things where there was just a little too much salt put in there, but it wasn't anything major. It was nothing that ruined it for me. So I think my favorite dish is probably the sushi from Food Republic. I do love sushi, but if I'm not counting that, the Queso at Los Lobos was amazing. I will say, apparently I'm wrong about queso, and it is just melted cheese in a dish. Who knew? Because it's like that at Hola Tacos and Los Lobos. So I did really enjoy that. I had the food at Palomar was amazing. Loved it. I loved everything I ate. There is like pesto and gnocchis at Indulgence Food Hall. And that is just such a really cool concept as well, where instead of doing the buffet, like you just order your food on your little tablet like you're at Food Republic. They bring it to you. So much less chaos, but it was packed. And that was really something that we ran into, is that the Indulgence Food Hall and the buffet were both constantly packed. The Indulgence Food Hall, they were turning people away, especially because there were days that we couldn't eat outside because of it being cold and windy. So that filled up really fast, and you kind of had to time your day around getting in there. But, you know, the locals always great, and all of the main dining rooms were really good. So I wasn't feeling like it was really hard to find food when we wanted it. And yeah, like I said, everything was really good. Everything was really well prepared. It was one of the better specialty dining experiences across the board that I've had on a cruise ship. And I really feel like that is somewhere where NCL tends to stand out, and it really followed through here. I wish they would put Los Lobos on more ships as well. But on the subject of food, something that is really frustrating is they have taken away a la carte pricing, which I know is something John has talked about in the past. And it ends up with you over consuming food and there being food waste, because, you know, you get like at a Food Republic, you get 4 dishes. 4. Like, they're not huge, but like I had my 4 were like fried squid, 2 sushi rolls, and a dessert. And then John had like wonton tacos and another sushi roll and a dessert and Korean fried chicken. And like, it was so much food. We were so uncomfortable when we left there. And the same thing at Los Lobos, where both of us turned down like entire dishes. We split a dessert because they had churros at Los Lobos, and we ended up turning down the second dessert because it was just too much food, and we didn't want to lead to food waste, and we were already pretty full. But yeah. And then the other really interesting thing is we didn't get charged for sodas on this trip at all. Neither of us had the beverage package, and so that was a fun surprise. Definitely made it easier because I do love a Coke Zero with lunch. So yeah, as far as food goes, the food on board was amazing, great experience. Nothing really triggered my like tendencies. Did have Starbucks every day, but other than that, like, yeah, it was great, wonderful. I don't think food is a place where Prima falls down for sure. Next up, let's talk about service. This is a very light touch ship as far as service goes. So it is down to the 1 room cleaning a day. I have only seen my room steward twice the whole trip. I didn't see him till day 4. So that was strange. But my room was clean, and I always had fresh laundry. Didn't get my bucket of ice because I didn't see him till later to ask, and I'm not gonna call about a bucket of ice, but I do prefer to have ice in my room. And then the wait staff was all amazing. The bartenders were amazing. They do seem very overworked. And then also I'll touch on this a little bit more later. There's a lot of stuff broken around the ship, and I feel like they spend a lot of time like apologizing for that. That being said, it's not the happiest crew, but nobody was rude. Nobody was unattentive. When I needed something, I had no problems getting it. So I have no complaints with the service at all. Which leads us into the ship overall. The ship gets a lot of flack, and it is weirdly laid out. But I don't feel like it's any more weirdly laid out than a lot of the Princess ships. And you know I love Princess. This is a ship where, and I told this to John early on in the cruise, I feel like they started designing the ship with millennial cruisers in mind. There's a lot of Instagrammable places. There's a lot of like really specific design choices. There's a lot of really fun things like playing mini golf, and the mini golf looks awesome, but it's broken. The way that they have darts set up looks awesome, but it's broken. And it just seems like they kind of lost the thread of what they were trying to do halfway through designing it. And so there are a lot of the awkward ending hallways, but then there's just a lot of stuff on the ship that doesn't work. This ship had so much potential, but we talked to people today who their hot tub didn't work, where the infrared in the Haven suites didn't work. The dartboards were all getting refurbished, so they weren't available. The pool was getting painted, so it wasn't available for most of the cruise. Now, that being said, they did give $100 a room onboard credit because of the pool, which I don't typically use the pool, so it's fine by me. The water slides weren't open. Partly weather, partly things malfunctioning, I think. Don't quote me on that second part. And then the slides, I got stuck going down one of the slides, and I was like embarrassed, thinking it's because, I'm not the smallest person by any stretch of the imagination. But then we talked to other people, and there were kids getting stuck in the slide, that everyone was getting stuck. And I think that's partially a design flaw with the slides. They are plastic, and plastic is not exactly slippery. They should be metal. But here we are. But the ship is beautiful. In my room, there's this big wall of art behind the bed, and this is one of the biggest rooms I've ever stayed in. It's great from that aspect. It's very muted. It does need more pops of color. You really only get blues throughout unless you're in Los Lobos or playing mini golf, or some of the specialty dining has some color to it. But there's also like blue over the mirrored edges of like the elevators, and like the blue windows of Hasuki, which if you've ever got new technology, it's got that blue film on it. That's what it looks like, and it just makes me want to peel it off. So that's interesting. So I think that this is a great concept, but not a great execution as far as the ship goes. I did say, though, that I would absolutely bring somebody on the ship with me. I think my husband would really enjoy this ship. I love all the outdoor spaces. I love how much shade there is outside, because one of my biggest complaints with the pool deck is that there's no umbrellas. And so unless you get like one of the rare overhangs, you're baking. There's plenty of umbrellas out there. There's plenty of shady spots. There's so many places to sit. Pretty much anywhere I went, except the atrium, which we'll come back to in a second, there was always somewhere to sit when you wanted to do something like read by the ocean or crochet by the ocean. And I really appreciate that, and I think it's a really great design aspect. However, once again, it was really cold most of our cruise, and it was hard to be outside. And so that made the ship feel more crowded because everybody was moving inside. Overall, though, I think that the bigger rooms, everything else, it did mean that there were less people per square foot, it felt like. And so for the most part, it was average to less amount of feeling crowded, unless you were in the atrium or one of the dining areas. The atrium, that is their secondary place to have events, and it's a choke point, and I think a fire hazard. I do think they need to rethink the atriums. I'm excited to see what John thinks of Aqua in August, to see if they fix some of those little design flaws. Last little flaw that I will touch on is the elevators. They are very slow. It's really hard to catch an elevator. I hate elevators. I did a lot of stairs. I normally do, but I feel like the elevators were less of an option because they took so long. But there are things that I loved about this ship. I love that the stairs in the atrium are designed in a way that discourages people from sitting on them or taking pictures on them, unless you're the professional photographers. I would like to start a petition about not doing the professional photos on stairs. It's really annoying. The theater is amazing. I love the way the theater works, the fact that they can retract the stairs and have that space to do the parties. It took the parties out of the atrium and off the pool deck and made them more accessible for more people, especially if you're not interested in dancing and you just want to sit up in the 7th or 8th floor and watch and kind of vibe up there. That's an option. So I love that. Like I said, I love how big the room is, how spacious it is. John's studio room is also amazing. It feels very clean and open, very airy, natural light forward, even when you're in the inside room. The temperature of the lighting in here is amazing. So yeah, this is by far not my least favorite ship. This is not even my least favorite NCL ship. Like, it's probably my favorite NCL ship at this point. Just based because I can see the potential. I could easily see myself really liking Aqua and Luna if they fixed some of those little things that made it kind of awkward. I also love the art that's around outside. That's really interesting, and I love the oceanfront. Let's talk entertainment. So, we're going to do the negatives first and then the positives. Negatives. The Price is Right was completely booked before we got on the boat. So it's standby only. We're hoping to get in tonight. But that was really disappointing. And then my biggest complaint with NCL and a lot of the cruise lines is getting rid of the Broadway shows. I talked about this with Seaside. I don't like to just watch a show that doesn't have a story to it. I would like there to be something moving it along. I don't want to just watch you dance. I don't want to just listen to you sing. I want there to be a story. And NCL used to have these like Broadway performances, and they were truncated, but they were still the performance, and it was amazing. And Royal still has that, and I don't understand why they're doing away with it. I'm guessing licensing fees. Write your own. At least Princess, they tie it together with a story. It might be the worst story, but there's something to follow along and lead you in and keep you hooked. We didn't even go see Burn the Floor. We saw it in the opening night variety show, and really that was enough. It wasn't that impressive. And not enough to sit there for an hour. So, there's that. And then there's not a lot of venues for stuff to like. The Poorhouse is still small. So is the Comedy Club, also small, laid out very oddly. I like how the Comedy Club is laid out better on the Getaway and Getaway Plus ships. But, not huge for the comedians anyway. But move on to the good. The crew talent show was amazing. Always go see the crew talent show. They are a lot of times very, very talented people who just want to show you a little bit of what they can do. And it's also where you get to say thank you to everyone, and it was a really great time. There were some really talented performances. John and I actually like kind of side-eyed each other because one person did You Lift Me Up, and another person did Rollin' in the Deep, which are two very hard songs to sing, and we were like, ooh. But they did a great job. So, highly recommend that. Something I really love that they did on this ship is they took Rumors, the Fleetwood Mac show that's normally in the Poorhouse, and they moved it into the theater. And this allowed everybody to get to go see it, and that's such a great show. On Getaway, I believe it was, we saw it in the Poorhouse. It was tiny. And then the fight broke out because people were shoving other people out of the way. So it was really nice to see it here, see it in its entirety, actually get to see everything that was happening on stage during it. Once again, there's a storyline there, and it's basically just performing the album with little bits interspersed to tell you what was happening with the band while the album was being recorded. It was perfect. That show is amazing. And it seemed to be the same cast from when we saw it last time, and they do such a great job. They're amazing little actors. Like at one point, I turned to John because the woman who plays Stevie Nicks and the man who plays Stevie Nicks' ex-husband are married in real life. And I was like, are they going through trouble, or is she just that good of an actress? Because she was like tearing up, like she looked legitimately upset, and like she's really good. They're all really good. So that was amazing. I really liked Alvin, the cruise director. I actually remember his name, which is odd. That means he was good. And then the show's happening in the atrium. The atrium's not built for shows. They have folding chairs in there, and it gets way too crowded. But then also, a lot of the shows should have been 18 plus, and I think were, but they were happening in the atrium, which means that you can't keep kids out of there. And so at one point, there was the comedy movie trivia or something like that, and one of the shows was Magic Mike. And all the adults are having fun as this guy is stripping off his shirt and giving a woman a chair dance. But there's a kid right there just that's awkward and not right. So I do wish that they had another venue that they could do those types of things in so that you could keep kids away from it. But also the atrium is not set up for doing that. It doesn't look like the atrium was designed with that type of entertainment in mind. But overall, the singers and dancers were talented. I just don't like Burn the Floor. And the Poorhouse cast was amazing. The Fleetwood Mac show was amazing. And the game shows that we saw were good. It's just they need a better venue for it. Next up, Itinerary. Not much to say here. We went to Bermuda. We stayed overnight. We came back. I loved it. It was amazing. I've never done an overnight on the cruise ship before, and it was kind of cool to be able to go out late at night, do the Bermuda Triangle thing. That was an amazing time. And I think the only thing I would change is when I left out of New York, I would do this itinerary again in a heartbeat. It was cold on the way down, and we do feel like we're hauling back to New York to make it in time. But it was a really great trip. I really do like this itinerary. I really love Bermuda. I could spend more time there. I think 1 sea day down, 2 days there, a sea day back is the perfect amount of time. So I absolutely would recommend this to anyone, especially if you just want a shorter cruise. It's not quite booze cruise length. The nice thing with this one is we did leave on a Tuesday and come back on a Sunday. And so it wasn't a ton of just people who were here to party. But it is a lot of people who, maybe can't do the full 7 day. So it was an interesting crowd. We'll come back to that. Last up, we'll do tech and Wi-Fi. I hate the new NCL app. It's worse than the old one. It's not. Every other cruise line at this point has an interactive itinerary where you can mark things and have it remind you. That's not the case. It's the PDF of the daily freestyle uploaded to your phone. And that would be great, but one morning they just didn't change it until 11 a.m. It was on day 4. It stayed day 3 until 11 a.m., which is really frustrating. And then it's kind of hard to navigate. Your eDocs aren't easily accessible once you check in. So I had a panic on embarkation day. We got it taken care of. We're travel agents. We figured it out. But the eDocs weren't available in the app for me. It just errored out. And then it said that we were actually getting on Wednesday instead of on Tuesday. The app was just completely wrong. And it's hard to find things in it. And the information's conflicting, and it's a mess. It's not good. That being said, the Wi-Fi wasn't terrible. I didn't have the streaming Wi-Fi. I had the normal Wi-Fi. Frustrating thing is I did have to send my videos to John or back to Sarah to post them for the shorts every day. But we weren't paying for streaming, so whatever. I was able to get all my work done that I needed to get done. I was able to communicate with people. And it was pretty fast, except for streaming sites. Which I wasn't paying for streaming. Now, John also didn't pay for streaming, but was able to upload the videos to YouTube. I was not able to upload anything to anything. So I do think in the future, I will go ahead and get the streaming for work purposes, especially if I'm cruising by myself. Now, since I was cruising with John, it wasn't as big of a deal. We had other ways of taking care of things. And then, as far as tech on the ship goes, kind of come back to the mini golf. So there's a lot of really cool tech that's supposed to be on the ship that doesn't work great. So the mini golf is supposed to be super interactive. You're supposed to be able to put your ball down, and there's extra points you can get, and there's true or false questions, and there's all this stuff. And the mini golf was free as opposed to paid like it's supposed to be. because it was all broken. None of the machines work. And so it was just mini golf, which is fine. I do like mini golf well enough. But it was really disappointing that that technology was broken. Also, like, can we do away with the cards to keep your lights on? I hate that. That was, yeah, that in here. Didn't see a lot of the card reader covers on the floor, which is always nice because that's something that breaks first. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that just broke down. The app is terrible, but the Wi-Fi was good. So, kind of balances out. But I will say, I hope that they do a lot more work on that app to make it more user-friendly and eventually do bring in the ability to tap on events, learn more about them, and to add them to your schedule so you don't forget them, because you're on vacation. You don't want to have to keep track of time. That's why you have a phone. Just put it on the phone, for the love of everything. I do also appreciate that unlike MSC, you can transfer the Wi-Fi between devices. So if you do have one device, you can disconnect it from your phone and reconnect it on your computer and everything works great. So that was really nice. Had no problems on that front. So last but certainly not least, the people. The other people we're cruising with. Overall, it's fine. There's a couple things. I mentioned earlier that this is a lot of people who maybe can't afford a 7-day cruise or can't afford to take off the time for a 7-day cruise, so they're on a 5-day. There were a lot more kids here than I was expecting, which is fine. But there's a lot of very entitled families where, like, jumping in line for the elevator. One woman was at guest services and she wanted to go play bingo and childcare wasn't open. And she was getting snippy because she was going to miss bingo because nobody was coming to take her kid. She was trying to hire one of the ship babysitters. And it's like, think ahead. A lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on anyone else's. And like, I get it. It's your vacation. But like, one, don't play music in a public place. Nobody wants to hear your music. There's already music playing everywhere on the ship. And it's such a sensory overload to have the music playing up here and then to have a guy over here playing music on his phone speakers loud enough that it's hard to have a conversation. I'm like, that's so rude. And like, another couple was rocking around and had a Bluetooth speaker that they were playing music on and got in the elevator. The elevator's this big. Don't do that. I hate that. Some funny things that happened is a little kid ran away from his family while on the ship and they were like frantically looking for him and calling him. We're walking down the stairs trying to mind our own business. And we see a kid who belonged with the parents and we were just like, he's down here. We're like, your parents are looking for you. He's like, okay. Drops off. He was like 4 floors below them. Couldn't hear them call. It's hilarious. We ran into several subscribers and made some new friends, and that was awesome. This was the first trip where we gave away all of our pins while we were on board, and that was such a good feeling, both to hear from these people about, you know, their traveling and giving us some feedback on how we're doing, but also just to get to meet people and who love cruising as much as we do. So that was amazing. So yeah, overall, like, nothing glaring, just like a lot of kids. Especially for, I don't think it's spring break. Spring break's late this year. So yeah, a lot of kids, a lot of families, and a lot of people who thought it was their own personal thing. There's one woman who was running down the hallway singing. I think she was singing to me at one point about like, I don't know where my room is. Like, made up a little song. There were a lot of bizarre little things that happened with the people, but you know, it's okay. It's their vacation. Only things that were the other thing is people flooding Indulge Food Hall. Like, it was supposed to open at noon. We got there at 11:50 and they're like, we're already full. Ooh. So that's a little bit of the ship's fault, but also people just like camping. Also, don't go into bathrooms with bare feet. That's the other thing that's weird. I'm like, why are you doing that? Do you know what's on that floor? Do you know what's down on your feet? This is how you get it. This is how you get infections on your feet. Put on some shoes. The people weren't terrible. They were, it was a very diverse crowd, age-wise, every way you could think wise. It was a good mix of people. No fights broke out, nothing like that. It was, I do like that this ship has, like I said earlier, less people per square foot. So I didn't really feel the effects of people. And I really enjoyed that. And so, yeah, this is where I'm going to insert future AJ talking about Disembarkation. Hey, future AJ here to come back and tell you all about Disembarkation. So Disembarkation went beautifully. We went up, we grabbed coffee, we went back to our rooms, got our stuff together, and walked off the ship before 7 a.m. It's one of the easiest, smoothest, and earliest disembarkations that I've had ever. It's really setting up my year so far great with disembarkations. Both this one and MSC in January were amazing. So maybe the cruise lines hear us about disembarkation taking too long and the crowds and everything, but it went great. 10 out of 10 experience. Would recommend. There's nothing really to say. That's how well it went. But I'm still on the ship right now. So overall, I have really enjoyed this ship. I'm really looking forward to seeing John's thoughts on Aqua and how it matches up. I am hoping he does a side-by-side comparison so that I can decide if that's a ship I want to take my family on. I do think that this ship is okay for families. It is more adult feeling. I feel like they were trying to pull stuff from Virgin to make the ship more enticing to the millennial crowd, like I said earlier. Not sure they hit that mark, but that's definitely what it seemed like they were going for. And I would definitely sail on the ship again in a heartbeat. I've really enjoyed my time here, and it's been one of the best cruises that I've been on. So with that, I hope you had fun. If you're looking for the vlogs, as I said earlier, you can head over to John's channel. Over here, I will be doing more general cruising things. If you found this video useful, if you like my style, or if you just want to help me out, please ask that you like and subscribe. It helps us to keep making these videos and bringing you great content. And with that, I will bid you goodbye, and I'll see you next time.